So we're here with Robin Bougie, the legend. Yeah, but for me, you are a legend. Like I said earlier, you're the inspiration behind my own podcast. It was I wanted to do it because of all your stories. There's so many interesting stories that come out of Cinema Sewer. But for somebody who never heard of it, what is Cinema Sewer?
Well, it's a guide. It says on the cover, the guide to the sickest and sexiest movies ever made. I like to think of it as something that has all the research of an academic paper, but with all the personality of a letter from a friend. So basically, I use it. It's a movie zine, and I use it as a way to talk about movies, to review films, to track down the people who made the films, interview them, get their stories, and just a way to introduce people to maybe movies that they wouldn't have heard of or wouldn't have had a chance to see.
And what I like about Cinema Sewer also is it's the backstory. Because sometimes you can watch a movie and you don't really get it. You read your backstory, all the research you did about it, and it gets so much more interesting.
That's to me, that's the interesting part too. Like when I watch a movie, I try not to read anything about it before I see it, so I can enjoy it, fresh for the first time. But the second the movie's over, I'm like, Google, like I need to know like the back. I need to like who made this, like what are they about? Like what happened to them after the film was over? Are they still alive? What are their politics? Anything. Like, just, I want to know the backstory. And I think a lot of people are like that. And unfortunately, a lot of film reviewers, I don't think, focus enough on the stories of the people who are making the movies.
Sure. And how long have you been doing Cinema Sewer? When did it start?
I started it in 1997. And my wife actually came up with the name. She's really good at naming things. I'm actually really bad at naming things. So it's good to have a good wife in your corner who's like good. She came up with it instantly, and it's always been a good title. So, but it started out as like just a little mini comic. I come from the world of mini comics. I'm a comic artist, so it was just a little 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, folded over with 3 or 4 sheets. So it was a just I printed out maybe 200, 300 copies of them, sold them for like $2, mostly to friends and through the mail. This is back in there was in the I come also from the era of zine trading through the mail. Zines like Fact Sheet 5 and all of these. That was kind of the Bible of zine trading. Like if you had access to that magazine, you had access to a whole world of people, kids just like you in other cities, making zines and trading them through the mail. So it didn't matter if you were, like where I was, like stuck in Saskatoon or something like that. You had access to a whole world of underground culture.
Awesome. And I gotta say, your wife must be really patient and fantastic. You talk about her all the time. How did she deal with all your work and all the movies you watch?
She's also a big movie fan as well. She's not as much into the weird hardcore porn as I am. So I like all kinds of, just the weirder the better. She likes weird stuff too, but she's maybe more refined taste. She loves spaghetti westerns. She loves film noir. We've been watching tons of 50s musicals right now. So that's actually all I've been watching is like 50s musicals, which my readers of Cinema Sewer probably would never assume.
But I want to hear how you do it, because it's all handmade, and that's really impressive.
It's purely an aesthetic choice to do the hand lettering, because I type everything out first. I do all my writing on computer because I can arrange my thoughts much easier. You can delete things and move things around, and then when I get it the way I like it, I print it out, and then I use that as a guide to hand letter everything. I've been doing this long enough now that I just turned 42 a few days ago, so that I'm having problems now with my arm. I got like a RSI injury, a repetitive stress from all the hand lettering. So I have actually made a font out of my lettering.
Really?
Yeah, so I can actually, when my arm starts to get really sore, I can go to the font and create it that way. And it still looks, actually, people can't really seem to tell the difference. Like I could show you, oh, this is the font and this is real.
You didn't know.
I know, but most people, they can't tell. So which is good. But I still like to do it by hand as much as I can, because I think it just feels right.
Yeah, and in your drawings, You're so talented. I love your drawings. We'll show it on the blog, of course. And you do comic books too. I know less about your comic books, so tell me about it. Did you stop doing comics when you started to do Cinema Sewer, or you always still?
Always. I'll be doing them in conjunction at the same time. Comics are much less rewarding because there's so much. You have to take so much more time and effort, and it's a pretty thankless medium in terms of the amount of work you have to put into it versus the amount of reward you get back. People often are saying like, "Wow, I can't believe how much time you spend hand lettering these pages." But to me, this seems like easy compared to doing comics, like because I'm just writing it. Like I was just the other day on Facebook. I was just adding up. And this is not to brag or to boast or anything, because it honestly was kind of shocking. But I added up how many pages that I had done in the last 5 years, and it just totally shocked me because I hadn't been keeping track. Yeah. But it was like 1,700 pages of original content I've done in the last 5 years. And I could never have done that much if I was only doing comics.
Yeah,
you know, it's just like an insane amount of work. So to me, it almost feels like cheating. Like, oh, I'm just doing lettering. But for the most part, my comics are I mostly work in like the porn comic medium, because that's what I find the most entertaining to do. Again, I could probably be making better money and have more fans if I worked outside of porn, but because you know, despite what people think, there's actually not much of a readership or a means of making a living doing porn comics. But you know, I gotta follow my heart.
Yeah, of course. Did you ever had maybe the thought of doing a softer version of Cinema Sewer on the side, maybe?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's hard for me to consider soft pedaling or doing a softer version, because I'm very selfish in terms of my creation. I need it's desperately important for me to always be having the most amount of fun, because I'm scared that as soon as I'm not having fun anymore, I'll stop doing it. Yeah. I know how lazy I can be as soon as something feels like work. So I always do everything as much fun as possible, and that means, in my case, that means doing it dirty. So
it's perfect. And so in the beginning, it was just like you said, some piece of paper with a little tack on it, and that was it. But how did you get involved with Fab Press, that's now getting out compilations of your fan design?
Well, we're doing this interview right now here in Fantasia. This is my first time being back here in 9 years. 9 years ago, I came here because I knew Fab Press. Harvey Fenton, who runs Fab Press, was going to be here. And I knew that was the only book company that I wanted to publish this.
Are you serious? You're saying it's because of Fantasia?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what brought us together. And
awesome.
I live in Vancouver, so I had to fly across the country to be here. But I knew it was worth it if I could convince Fab to
of course,
publish my work. So
wow, it's awesome. And you just got out your 5th volume.
5th book, yes. So.
And wow,
this is actually my 7th book, because I have another book series called Graphic Thrills, which I also do, which is a coffee table book series all about the history of vintage adult movie posters.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
It's actually really well made. It's a great compilation. It's just goes so fast. You get through it. Like you can never stop reading it. That's what I like about it. It's so interesting. You finish it. The first volume, actually, I read it 3 times because it was.
The first volume was Cinema Sewer or Graphic
Cinema
Thrills?
Sewer.
Oh, yeah.
Cinema Sewer. I got through it in like, I don't know, like 3 days. And like, what did I just read again? I read it too fast. Okay, again.
Well, it's kind of built to be consumed in that way. It's supposed to be kind of bathroom reading, you know. It is. Most of the articles are 1 or 2 or 3 pages. It's kind of designed that way, like in bite-sized, you know, pieces, so that you can. It's easily consumable. It's like junk food, basically.
Yeah. But the best junk food. You did a lot of interviews through the years. Maybe threw up some name. Which one you were the most excited about?
Well. Probably Jamie Gillis.
Yeah.
he's one of my favorite porn stars of all time, and when he passed away, it was like heartbreaking for me. I got to travel to New York to hang out with him. That was like one of the best nights of my entire life. It was him showing me around New York and taking me out drinking, and me getting to meet his girlfriend, and he's just an amazing guy. So he's one of my favorites. He's not as famous as he should be. He's not as famous as like a Ron Jeremy but as far as I'm concerned, he should be.
And because of like you said, it's the sickest of them all. You probably receive a lot of fan mail. Do you receive a lot of complaints, or what kind of mail do you receive usually?
The complaints.
I'm curious about the commentaries of your readers.
Almost all the stuff that gets mailed to me is complimentary or fan letters. But if I get any sort of complaints, they usually happen in person. At conventions, or I'll do like a small press convention or something, and someone will walk by and pick up a book, and usually it's not somebody who's read it. They'll flip through it and see something, and they'll be like, this is wrong, you shouldn't be doing. So that's usually when I get complaints, is a very kind of like off the cuff, kind of somebody reacting in the moment, and they can't help themselves. They just want to express to me their outrage, or possibly disappointment, or
but if you want my opinion, like, you shouldn't be doing this. That's a compliment.
Yeah, in a way it is. I guess any sort of reaction is a good reaction.
Exactly.
You're prompting somebody to speak their mind, and that's always good. So
cool. And I'm curious about which story you were really proud of, like, getting out, like by your research. It was like, oh my God, nobody knows that. I gotta tell the world about that.
There's something in this brand new book, actually, that it does kind of feel like nobody knows this story. It's one of the very first articles in here. It's called, the name of the article is the Romanian Yoga Piss Porn Cult, which is it's all about this cult that existed in what still exists in Romania, and they put out a series of porn movies in the early 2000s, which were all basically to indoctrinate new members of the cult, to try to bring people in, but they were using pornography as a way to make their cult seem more like a good group to join, and specifically urine-based pornography. So I thought this was so fascinating, like such an unusual story for this group to be doing this, especially they're using kind of like they have this whole like idea that they're aligning their chakras by peeing, and like you get like more closer to God by getting pee on you, and there's a whole story. I'm not making it sound as good as it is, but I'm really proud of the amount of research that went into it. It was months of research, and I don't speak Romanian, so I had to do a lot of like Google Translate from these Romanian websites, because as far as I know, I'm the first person to write about it in English.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Interesting. And recently I I found out you started a podcast.
Yeah.
I started to listen to that. It's really interesting. How did you get involved in that? What gave you the motivation?
I really wanted to do a podcast for a long time, but I have my hands are I'm busy with so many things.
You gotta choose.
Yeah, I kind of had to choose, and I'm like, well, I don't really know too much about the technical side of it. I know what I want the podcast to be, but do I have the time and energy to learn how to use the programs and buy the recording equipment and all this stuff? And it seemed like more work than it was worth. But at the same time, I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I know how good they can be, and as far as bringing new readers in, and if you're creating original content for it, how rewarding it can be as a listener to listen to them, because like a lot of times when I'm drawing or whatever, it's a great thing to have on in the background, especially like there's a lot of really good podcasts out there. So what I was waiting for basically was to meet to get a partner who could handle the technical side of it, and so I could basically just write content or come up with ideas and then just perform them, or we could discuss them or whatever. And so basically my friend Tim Hulsizer, who's my co-host on the show, he was the one that stepped in and said, hey, I'm willing to do the boring work, and you can do the fun work, and take all the credit. And I'm like, that sounds perfect, let's do that.
Awesome, man. Well, I gotta say again, to you, but also to people who listen right now, my show Les Oubliettes wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Cinema Sewer.
That's great. Thank you.
And for that, man, I thank you very much.
That's
and
my
I'm
pleasure.
really happy to have met you today.
It's great. Thank
so,
you.
have a good festival. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And buy Cinema Sewer right now. You won't regret it.
Cinemasewer.com.